What is up, dudes and dudettes? I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and I was watching Man of Steel the other night, and I absolutely adore that movie. It's not only my favorite Superman movie, but it's also one of my favorite comic book movies in general. And I know that's not the most popular thing to say on the internet and most geek circles, but I think I've finally figured out why. And what it all basically boils down to is preconceived notion. When most people think of Superman, they immediately think of the Christopher Reeve movies, and in some cases, the Jeff Johns run on Superman, which, let's be honest, that run is basically a fan-field extension of the Richard Donner universe. So, when they watched Man of Steel, I can fully understand why most people felt uncomfortable with seeing Superman in a light that they haven't really seen him in before, and why they reacted the way they did. So, starting off with the characterization of Superman in this film, we don't see Superman talk much. In the classic Christopher Reeve movies, all Superman does is interact with people. He's the guy who rescues the kitten from the tree and uses his super breath to reinflate somebody's tires. However, Superman as represented in Man of Steel is more reminiscent of his original Fleischer cartoon and Golden Age counterpart. He only really comes in to save the day when he sees that it's a problem that only Superman can solve, and he does so usually without speaking that often. And while this does let Man of Steel off the hook for technically being accurate to source material, it's material that people either A, aren't familiar with, or B, fans of. And I myself know plenty of people who actually loathe the Golden Age Superman, and that's one of the main reasons why they didn't like him in Man of Steel. Another complaint that's slated against the film is the tone. As I said before, when people usually think of Superman, they think of the Christopher Reeve movies and the Jeff Johns run. They expect a bright, smiling Superman that lives in a kind-hearted world full of archetypal villains and a supporting cast that's very witty and comical. In short, they wanted the Avengers. But instead, what they got was a pulp science fiction, alien invasion disaster movie that's more akin to War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Battle Los Angeles. Now, I'm not saying that just because the tone of the film was dark and gritty that Superman himself was. That's actually a misconception that most people have when they're, ripping this movie a new asshole, and I would like to disagree. Snyder, and Goyer, I guess too, if I want to give him credit, they do what I feel a lot of writers have trouble doing, and that's making the world around Superman dark and gritty, while not actually making Superman himself dark and gritty. In fact, Superman is actually quite warm in this movie, and I'm not understanding why everyone calls him a douche. He doesn't really do anything that I find particularly douchey at all, but that's whatever. Also, while I'm at it, the color palette. I know that this film is very bleak and drab, and part of me really hates it, especially after watching the What If Man of Steel Was in Color fan edit, but the other half of me really likes it, and that's due to it fitting perfectly with the quasi-1950s science fiction nature of the film, but really, either one works for me. Now, on to the big one. The thing that people point to the most when shitting in this movie serial, the destruction of Metropolis and Smallville, and Superman killing General Zod. So, starting off with the destruction of Smallville and Metropolis, my stance on it is this. A, read a fucking comic book. Or, just, if that's too much trouble for you, just watch the old TV shows. And to the people who did do that, where was your concern for these fictional civilians and this, fictional taxpayer dollars, before when watching these superpowered SmackDowns? Why are you isolating Man of Steel? I just don't get that. And B, the only other thing I have to say is, what I usually say to people who harp on destruction in movies. It's a movie, which means it's not real. All the buildings that blew up and all the people that died are completely fictional. Get the fuck over it. As for the death of General Zod, I've covered this briefly in one of my earliest videos, but I'll bring it up here again. Superman has killed before, in every timeline in fact, so what's the big deal this time? General Zod in Superman 2 was depowered before Superman crushed every bone in his hand, then tossed him into the icy pits of the fortress, and then later on he uses his heat vision to destroy the fortress, so even if General Zod survived the fall, he would have been completely nuked. And in the John Byrne run of Superman, early on in his career, he exposes General Zod and company to kryptonite and watches as they die from radiation poisoning. So snapping his neck and killing him instantly and painlessly is actually one of the more merciful kills that Superman's ever committed. But I think the root of the problem lies in the way Zod's death was executed. I'll stop now. But my point still stands. While I personally think that Superman torturing a man for his own personal amusement, then throwing him off a cliff, all with a smile on his face, is a bit more brutal and sadistic than snapping a neck, I do agree that the latter is visually far more violent than the former. But I still stand by my point of calling bullshit on people who say, "Oh, Superman never kills," because that's just ridiculous. But in closing, Man of Steel is a good movie, but it's bogged down due to it not resembling what came before it in its medium. And instead of taking the Marvel route of adapting popular stories that even non-comic book readers have even heard of, so they pretty much pander to all audiences, Man of Steel pulls from material that either isn't all that well known at all, or, depending on who you talk to, even liked. So, those are my thoughts on the matter, but anyways, I am the Mystical Green Beanie, and as always, until next time, adios nachos, adios.